Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning. How are you today? We have a good, really interesting session that we'll get started in a minute or so. But again, just to confirm you're in the right place, we are translating compliance into MSP services that drive value and revenue. So just hang on a minute and we'll get started. I should learn a little song and dance or something that I can do in the meantime here. But anyway, we'll get it going. All right, well, let's go ahead and start away. Again, thank you everybody for attending today and for listening on our on-demand posting after the fact. We are translating compliance into MSP services. We have a really interesting topic. We did this a few months ago, covering some of the same topics, but really this is an urgent issue, I think, and becoming more and more urgent, particularly if you're at all involved in the government business of government and Defense Department in particular, customer base. So hopefully we'll address everybody's issues today. Again, this could be a daunting topic, especially if you haven't really started too much into this yet and you're wanting to get underway. There's lots of acronyms we're going to talk through. There's lots of tools and resources and people talking about it. So what we are going to cover today is what MSPs need to know to build compliance into their services, how to deliver value through prep and visibility and support, and the tools and programs that make it easier to get started. There are no slides here. We're just going to talk and walk through it. But I do hope you gain some value from this time. Let me introduce our special guest today, Tim Golden, or as I like to call him, Mr. Compliance. So Tim, welcome to the show.
I'm on the other side now. How'd that happen? Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good to have you on. So if you don't mind, give us kind of a brief introduction to yourself, a little bit about your company.
Sure, Frank. Thanks for having me on. I always enjoy being able to help educate MSPs and share a little bit of the wisdom and hopefully keep you from making some of the same mistakes I've made along the way as an MSP. So Tim Golden, founder and CEO of Compliance Scorecard, recovering MSP, recovering FedRAMP, moderate, all the acronym compliance stuff. 3-4 years ago, kind of saw the writing on the wall with the MSP space and recognizing, the help that MSPs are just seriously looking for when it comes to reducing risk and building out a compliance and a governance program. And so, our peer group that we started really just spun into a full-blown GRC. Here we are integrating with great, platforms like Nodeware to help MSPs ultimately have that risk conversation with your customer.
Yeah, no, it's as you said, it was the writing's been on the wall for a while, and I think it's finally kind of getting onto the paper right now that it becomes a little more executable. And I just recalled that I didn't introduce myself. So Frank Raimondi, I'm VP of Alliances and Partnerships for Nodeware and for IGI Cybersecurity, kind of two parts of our company. One, Nodeware is a SaaS platform for vulnerability management, or continuous vulnerability management and remediation. And our services include things like penetration tests, vCISO, third-party risk management, all the elements that really do roll into compliance as well. So we'll talk about that, sort of what are these different pieces, how do they get implemented, and who can you utilize to drive and build your business around them. So just to get into the one last sort of introductory element, Tim, we do this as a tradition on this podcast of let us know a famous Frank from history, from entertainment, could be from your next door neighbor that growing up that was very impressionable.
Well, you kind of led into this, right? So I could mention the normals like Frank Sinatra, Frank Lloyd Wright, Frank Zappa. Yeah, I bet you don't even know who Frank Zappa is, right?
I do. Come on, I'm older than
you're
you are, dude.
You're a Frank, so you probably do know who Frank Zappa is. He's the one that pissed me off the most. I'll just put that way because Led Zeppelin fan and what he did to that, but Probably the one that is, I don't want to say near and dear. The one that I think about and I'm like excited is Frank Oz. Do you know
Hmm.
Frank Oz?
I don't think I do.
You know Frank Oz. You just don't realize you know Frank Oz. I'll give you a little hint. He's short. He's green. He's got big ears. Oh, stump the Frank, do I?
Is he the guy behind
He is known for voicing Yoda,
Yoda? Yeah, there you go.
as well as various Muppets, Yes, Frank
Oh,
Oz, the
okay.
voice behind Yoda and the Muppets. So yes,
Okay.
Frank Oz.
Well, my grand puppy is Fozzie Bear, so there you go.
Yeah,
That's good
there you
connection.
go.
You probably voiced him. All right. So one last thing, then I just wanted to provide in case people come and go or different times. We'll give out our emails again, but just wanted for contact information. Fraimondi Raimondi@igius.com is my email. And Tim's is really complicated, tim@compliancescorecard.com. So please feel free to reach out to us. There you go. You'll be reminded of that name a couple times during the thing. All right. So I would ask anyone online, again, please use the questions section of the tool here to submit any questions. We did get some along the way that we'll pepper in as well. So Ken, you were alluding to it, Tim. Let's start with a little history, right? Probably don't need to go too far back, but maybe, give us a run of the old, I would say, check a box version of compliance versus today's, validate and report model and sort of how we got here.
Yeah.
Or is that a 2-hour discussion that we don't need to go into?
Checkmarkasaservice.com. Oops, sorry, shameless plug.
Yeah.
So, here's the thing, and we see this a lot, not just with our MSPs and prospects and people that we talk to almost on a daily basis, is that the mindset is still there for checkbox compliance. I want to know, am I compliant or not? Compliant to what? Compliant where? Compliant to how? Compliant to, even more importantly, when? Right? You might go through an audit. You mentioned CMMC or SOC 2 or others, blah, 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 blah. Like, the mindset has always been, do I have a checklist and do I get green boxes? Right? But that is changing. Our industry is changing. I saw this in the federal government work I did day to day for 20 years. Way back in 2006, NIST 853, one of the big frameworks that a lot of the others, like, we had to go and get compliant. Here's 300 controls. Do you check the box? They bring in BDO or Deloitte or whoever to look at all the boxes you checked and then the stuff that goes with it. That was 2006. By the time that I left to go build Compliance Scorecard, 2-3 years ago, even before that, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we moved from a 3-year triennial thing to quarterly. We were being looked at quarterly. The controls, the policies, the procedures, the evidence, we call that ConMon, or continuous monitoring. Right? Frank, you're probably seeing this in vulnerability management, right? FedRAMP 20X just came out with a whole new vulnerability management program on continuous monitoring.
Yeah.
See,
it's once a year isn't good enough anymore.
Yeah, it's one thing to be able to do a point in time, and I think that's great. Let me break it down a little easier for you, right? As an MSP and explaining this to your customer, you can use these simple terms and analogies like, hey, you have an annual physical, right? You go to the doctor once a year, you have an annual physical, but then he gives you all the things you're supposed to be doing daily, weekly, monthly. Eat healthy, exercise, cut out this, cut out that. Like, you might have an annual checkup with your doctor, but it's the day-to-day activities that get you healthy. It's the same thing with your car. Maybe you're talking to a car dealership and maybe you're like trying to sell them on compliance, right? Like, hey, I don't get my oil checked once every decade. I do it every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. I get my tires rotated every 15,000 miles. I'm continuously monitoring my car. Why wouldn't you continuously monitor your compliance and risk?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And actually, I used the analogy of the medical, both from the vulnerability management of, continuously, right? Things happen every day. There's tons of vulnerabilities published every week, et cetera, et cetera. So you need to keep up on those. And as you said, you go to the doctor, they tell you, do these things, but, you go back the follow-up and you do the stress test, right? That's kind of the penetration test. That's the next level of detail in terms of monitoring and tested or attempted exploitation. And so there's some good analogies here that once we explain those to people, and you're sure you're seeing the same thing, like, oh yeah, okay, I understand.
I think that's the struggle with a lot of MSPs, right? I get it. I feel like I'm a highly technical person. I like the ones and zeros and the blinky lights and the green, yellow, and red things. I can I want to make everything. I get it. I'm technical enough that I live, but your customer doesn't give a darn. I mean, sure, you can have, pretty scorecards, right? You can have those things, but unless you relate it to business, to their business, in their words, in their vernacular, the eyes are just going to glaze over. Whether it's the healthcare example, Frank, it's the car dealer example. Hell, now with GPT, you can literally GPT, how do I talk to a customer in this kind of business? And it will give you talking points. I didn't have that 3 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Good point. What do you think sort of mostly, I guess this is sort of, I'm going to answer part of this question by asking it. What are the other sort of outside drivers? I'm thinking it's in some cases it's government controls or frameworks, but it's also really the insurance industry, right? Which is a deliverable, not a deliverable, but it's a group that you need to be delivering to by using these compliance tools. So they're very connected, but again, the seatbelt example, car airbags, right? The insurance company didn't want to pay out. And so they're telling you, be safer on the front end. Same thing we're trying to do here is be safer on the front end of your computing and your IT environments. Anything else outside factors that are?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's all the, government regulations, CMMC, FTC safeguards, individual states all have their own privacy laws. By the way, we don't talk enough about privacy in the MSP space, do we? We spend a lot of our time around security controls and glaze over and not even want to, privacy.
Well, sort of that assumption that the security controls manage privacy information.
Oh no.
I think there's a lot of people connected.
So yes, there are outside drivers. Obviously, you hit the nail on the head with insurance. That's one of the biggers. There's regulatory things, whether it's a security or a privacy framework that GDPR, any of those, PAPITA, whatever, depending on what state, even what city you're in. There are legal requirements. There are, this is the, insurance requirements. And the next one, as an MSP, I bet you your customer has contractual requirements with their customer. Brian, my co-founder, and I, we talked about this a lot. I'm going to give the MSPs here listening a little exercise. Take your top 3 or 4 customers, or the ones you have the best relationship with, and pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, can we review 2 or 3 of your top contracts? I don't care about the numbers. You can redact the whole thing. What I want to be able to do, Frank, I want to be able to sit with you. I want to look at your contract with your customer, because I guarantee you there is hidden gold in them. There is probably a right to audit. There's probably a breach or SLA notification. There's probably gold. I can guarantee you there's gold in those Frank's contract with his customer. Frank being your customer as the MSP.
Yep. Yep. No, I absolutely. Well, there's a well, we've done this exercise with my colleague on the insurance. So just looking at the, hey, let me look at your insurance form and your policy, and here's the three things. Are you doing all of these on an ongoing basis? I mean, it's just it's
Yeah,
a
but
next level question, right? It's
I mean, let me
validation.
just back that up 10,000 feet. Frank, you are, Johnny's lug nut factory, and you're selling lug nuts to Boeing. The hell with CMMC and all that other stuff. That contract between you and Boeing, I bet, has a right to audit. I
Yep.
bet has an SLA. I guarantee it has some language in there talking about security and privacy. And as an MSP, you can help uncover, oh my gosh, you know what? You need to back your systems up and be available 24/7, because that $10 million contract, you will lose if you don't do it, because you're written in the contract. And by the way, it's going to cost you $100.
Yeah.
Would you spend $100 to save 100 million? Probably,
Hello.
right?
Yeah. Pretty obvious. Yeah.
That's
No,
how
good.
MSP pivot that conversation.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Good comments. Okay. So one of the questions that came in ahead of time was, and it might sound a little bit of a lead in, but this was an actual question that came in. Are there any turnkey software packages for compliance? Right. There are so many verticals where compliance means different things. I don't know. You didn't say anything there, Tim. What are you talking about? What would
So
be a good
the
tool?
answer is absolutely not even us. With the caveat, is there a turnkey, let me rephrase so I understand the question. Is there a turnkey compliance software? Was that the question? So,
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
so if I had to break that down, how do I get a checkbox? You don't. However, right? So it's about building that risk program, right? And there's never going to be a piece of software that is going to be able to make business risk decisions. It can guide you, it can help you. AI can give you some thoughts, but ultimately it is up to that business owner to make the decision. Shit, I don't want 2FA, period. I don't care. Or
Not gonna do it.
absolutely. Not
Those
gonna do
10
it.
seconds are too valuable to me.
So is there a turnkey solution? No, because you can never turnkey the human factor. Now, as an MSP looking out to roll out a risk program, to roll out a compliance program, absolutely things like, and I hate to say plug-in compliance scorecard, where we differ. Yes, we have a platform to manage and track and deal with all of it, but we have a full-blown pro services division to work with you, alongside you, or for you. I do, you do, we do, right? That is hand in glove with the MSP to build out a risk program. I mean, just like companies farm out their IT to you, you can farm out your GRC alongside us, right? With your logo, your name, your branding, and your paper billing the customer, not us. So you can mark it up, you can get your own house in order, you can get your own shit together. So is there a turnkey? Well, compliance scorecards, pro services, and platform hand in glove. Kinda.
No, it's good. Well, and just to bring it into the Nodeware play, right? We have integrations for our vulnerability data with compliance scorecard. We also have with BCI Toolbox and Control Map, and they're doing similar pieces where you still, Mr. MSP, you're not going to get out of the work, right? I mean, that's probably kind of the bottom line. We're going to make it easier for you, but if you want to provide this as a service, there is something you're going to have to do, and you're making it 100 times easier than it's ever been. So that's not a reason to not do it, but you will have to learn it. You have to work it, and provide value.
You're hitting on something that kind of hits home to me, right? And back to your original question of checkbox and continuous, like, I'm going to look right into the camera and say this. As an MSP, you will never get out of doing the work, period. End of story. Now, is there ways to ease that pain, right? Is there ways to streamline that? Are there ways to gain it? Absolutely. But just like the doctor ordered, you're not going to lose weight if you don't exercise and eat healthy, right? You need to put in the level of effort. And I hear this and I say this day after day after day after day, like checkbox compliance is dead. And if you're not willing and able to do the work, then don't do it. And the next piece of that is, if you are and you know and you see the opportunity in front of you as an MSP to work this, for the love of God, put a body in that spot. Give them the tools, give them the time, and give them the ability to do the work. Not just some, one-off, oh, extra duty for you. You need to dedicate a human to this, period.
Yeah, and that goes back to, expertise as well as just compliance within the compliance world, right? I mean, there's things moving there, to your point of understanding what your customers are requiring and what they need to be doing. I mean, that's got to be a back to continuous. They get new contracts all the time, hopefully, and that they're all going to have different requirements. So good information. Kind of more of a tactical question within the programming, and I don't know if you can answer this specifically, but the question was, how can we define recurring compliance tasks for each client, then assign those tasks to individual techs? Again, that might be more of a trick of the trade of the tool, of how you assign things within there to get done.
A lot of different ways. I mean, heck, you're probably a Microsoft shop, whoever put that question in. You're probably a Microsoft shop. You probably have, out of your Microsoft license, Microsoft Planner. Now, granted, you probably have a PSA and an RMM, and heck, even Compliance Scorecard has a project tool built into it. Use what you already have. Microsoft Planner, you can make reoccurring tasks and checklists and dates and assignability. Like, sure, use what you have. Put an Outlook reminder. I'm going to go to the crux of what I'm hearing in the underlying question, which is, what shiny new tool can I use to help me do this work? No, have a process, have a person responsible for that process, and then follow the process. Yeah. I started this whole thing way back in 2006 in legal pad and pencil. And if you've seen my handwriting,
gotcha.
A fancy tool is not going to solve it for you, but there are tools that can help. Use the ones that are available to you. Microsoft Project is probably baked into your platform, into your ecosystem already.
Right. Okay, so let's go broader, a little bit broader again. I think this kind of leads into this. What do MSPs need to know about compliance and framework, right? In the sort of second part is that, is there, and I know the answer to this, but just let's not answer it poorly. Is there a specific compliance list, right, that the MSP should follow at the very least, right? If they need to get started somewhere, just as a guideline to go to their customers with and say, hey, I'm using this XYZ compliance framework. You look like you're out or you're in, or I can do these. So kind of a big broad question, but let me hear you.
I would first consider not even using the word compliant unless your customer brings it up. And there's a bunch of reasoning behind there. For your small businesses, when they hear the word compliance or compliant, there's an emotional connection that happens to that. Similar to the word risk, right? So, not that they're bad things. I would pivot the conversation more towards business outcomes, right? Try to frame the conversation in a positive light. Is there a framework that we follow, and what framework is it? I get that question all the time. And the answer is yes or no. If you're an MSP and you're just starting out and you don't know where to begin, join a peer group, do some reading, right? I mean, sure, we have a peer group. There's tons of them out there, whatever. Join a peer group, do some reading, jump on, use Reddit and Facebook sparingly, but educate yourself first. I know, but I just want to jump to controls. Wrong approach. Wrong approach, right? Understand holistically, like, how does this work? Well, sure, a compliance standard, NIST, CMMC, CIS, HIPAA, the list goes on and on and on and on. Start with any framework. You know, everybody says CIS. I love CIS, but there's no legal requirement for CIS. There might be for GLBA, FTC safeguards. FTC safeguards can apply to probably 80 to 90% of your businesses. Cyber insurance, while not exactly required, is kind of required. They're asking for 8 or 10 things. So I would say, first and foremost, look at your customer base, kind of do a quick scan and be like, oh my gosh, 80% of my customers are car dealers or healthcare or XYZ. You can start to narrow down some frameworks. And if you're still stuck, head on over to GTIA and look at the GTIA Trustmark program as well.
Yeah,
that is
you don't have to complete all of that, but it gives you word.
That is the certify, I hate to use, attest, you know, my MSP against controls.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so that was kind of broad. Now let's go specific again, right? If one of these MSPs has a customers in the defense world, right? It could be a supplier to a contract to an airplane, right? How far down it goes. They're just finished, but 2 days ago, I think was the latest sort of mint of or version of requirements that I've seen a lot of discussion around about, oh shit, this is real now. I better really figure this out now. But you know, who does need to act now, and you know, who needs to start getting educated and ready to go?
So first and foremost, it has always been real.
Yes.
Right, regardless of where we are in the rulemaking process, it has always been real since about what, 2017? Don't quote me on the date, but 2017. So yeah. Contracts have clauses in them, and this is the previous conversation. You know, do you have this clause, and are you legally and obligatedly and contractually obligated to do it? Yes, CMMC, there is a bunch of contract clauses. Where along that chain does it actually apply to the what they call the organization seeking certification, OSC, the Johnny Lugnuts of the world, and the MSP, and all of those things spidering back and forth? If you're an MSP and you're just starting out, or you have or have already been on the CMMC journey with your customer, and you don't have somebody on your team that has gone through the CCA and the CCP, which is the certified practitioner and or assessor from the cyber, if you don't have somebody on your team that has been through those training programs, then you need to bring somebody in, period. I mean, just reading on Reddit the other day, literally this morning, some of the dumpster fire that I was just handed the CMMC project. I don't know what I'm doing because I'm the HR director. What? Not that an HR director can't, as long as they have the right resources beside them. I mean, anybody can facilitate a program and work through that, but you need to make sure that you're educating, because CMMC is pass fail, baby, pass fail. And when you're talking multi-million-dollar contracts, pass fail, baby, and you don't get a second chance, you know, your do-over is 18 to 24 months later, because now you're falling in somebody else's queue. You're somewhere else in the line. Once you get down this path, you bring in the assessor and they do their pre-audit, and you're not even close, you're out. And you probably got to go to the end of the line and wait another 18 to 24 months, at which point you're going to probably lose those contracts.
Yeah.
And as an MSP, if you don't know what the hell you're doing, don't do it. Bring in some experts, whether it's us or others, don't do it.
Well, and as I say, we have on our IGI cybersecurity world, we have 2 CCPs on staff, right, that are ready for those this, you know, the planning and the you know, the gap analysis of where you're at and where you need to go. So, yeah, you know, you're not, you know, I think that's probably the other underlying piece with MSPs is that they're not going to be able to do all this themselves, right? They need to outsource. They need to be ready to, you know, it's going to be worth something they can resell or repackage or put into a thing. So don't be afraid of the cost because you're going to get them back because these companies are going to have to do this. As you said, it's a yes or no. And
I will offer a glimmer of hope for those that are serious about taking on CMMC customers and they're willing to dedicate the people and the effort. It can be done. It has been done. We can help you get there, right? And it's not all doom and gloom. Yeah, it's expensive. It's a pain in the ass. There's a lot of paperwork. There's stuff that needs to happen, but it is possible. You know, we're getting plenty of MSPs and their customers today, right now, for the last 6 to 8 months that, well, even before Brian was here, I was doing assessments myself. We can get you there. And the best part about what we're doing a little different is not only do we have the platform and the pro services, but we're billing you, you're marking it up and billing the customer.
And it's done.
And you're also getting your own house in order for the next one.
Yep.
So you're getting paid to get your shit together.
There you go.
To do the next one. Right?
How can you go wrong?
You know, the hardest challenge that we've seen with OSCs, organizations seeking certification, is their own cold feet. You know, political landscape aside, you know, a bunch of baloney happened in February, right? We'll just kind of leave that away. But what just happened July 22nd of 2025 with the FAR ruling and where we're headed? October, baby. October. So
get on board. Yeah. Reach out.
60 to 90 days.
Yeah. Yes, not far away. So you do have a lot of customers using Compliance Scorecard, right? They're delivering these services and the value. So what is there any kind of best practices that you're seeing that once they've gone through and they've started, you know, how are they delivering their value? How are they, I want to say how they're selling it per se, but I think that becomes part of it maybe. So, I mean, what you know, what's somebody doing it right doing?
Yeah, so I would say, you know, there's always this chicken and egg, or this, you know, which side of the peak of the roof do they fall off of, right? Do we start with an assessment or do we start with policies and procedures? Doesn't matter where you start. Really good practices start with understanding their posture, building out the things that are missing, letting the customer make those risk decisions along the way. Right, so start with an assessment, identify the gaps. I guarantee you there will be policy documentation gaps. Go build a policy program, and for the love of God, don't do it more than 1 or 2 documents max per month. You will drive your end users and your customer nuts if they have to deal with 37,000 documents to read through, sign, and adopt in one day. Just don't do it. And by the way, by doing it a little bit, 1 maybe policy per month, you're also going to justify your existence. See that ongoing work. We're making progress. So best practices, do an assessment, identify the gaps, roll out a full policy governance program, deal with your risk register and plan of action and milestones, and go work on the projects, and do a little bit at a time. You will never be compliant on day one. You will always be working towards a more defensible and compliant system along the way. Start. That's it. Just start. And I don't give a shit if you do it in a spreadsheet or a notepad or pencil or whatever. Just start. Pick something and start now.
Yeah. Well, so call out maybe just sort of what you're seeing. There's a lot of different elements that can roll into compliance, and the different safeguards have different rules and stuff. But what are the real basics? I mean, vulnerability, continuous vulnerability management, MFA, some email security. What are the other key things that you're seeing are really, if you're not doing these, if you're not offering these today, then you're not going to get there. I mean, what's
So
kind of the basic?
multi-factor everywhere. Period. End of story. Like it's 2025. Why are we still talking about this? Along with a password manager. Like why are we still talking about this? So multi-factor everywhere with a password manager. Vulnerability management, not just I have a tool, but I'm actually doing stuff with the things that we find. Nodeware can help with that. Right?
Remediating beyond just seeing them.
Yes. Backup. Oh my gosh, backup. Why are we not talking backup?
Why are people still talking about
Anecdotally, okay, a friend of mine posted on Facebook, good friend of mine, she's on the school board. Oh my God, my computer blew up. I just keep getting this blue screen. Where do I bring it? And me, I'm like, drop it. Don't bring it to Best Buy. For the love of God, please don't. Drop it off. So I'm debugging, I'm working through it. I'm like, all right, I can read the drive. The very first thing I'm going to do is back it up to another external drive. Before I do anything, block level backup. Because they didn't have a backup. And she's got, years of kids' pictures. I'm like, hold on, man. So multi-factor with a password manager, vulnerability management, backup, and immutable backups. Make sure they're protected and you can't be immutable backups. My most favorite, policies and procedures, right? Making sure that everything you do is covered by a policy and procedure that's been approved. End users have been trained on it. They adopt them, policies and procedures. I can go on and on and on, but those are just basic, simple things. A policy management program, even if you charged $100 a month, you could roll out one document a month for $100 a month per customer. It's an extra $100 in your pocket, right? It's not that hard. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, I talk a lot about the cyber hygiene practice, right? And sort of thinking left of boom and, reducing risk and all that stuff. And again, going back to the healthcare example or to the other one, we're some of this is just surprisingly not available or not offered as widely as it should be. Again, 2025. Come on, people, this is you need to be protecting your customers, and if you're not, then you're going to be out of business when they get hit, or they're going to drop you for somebody else that's delivering and keeping them safer. So so just in terms of wrapping up, because I think we've got through our main topics here, what one or two things people listening need to think about, right, or start acting on. I think we've covered a lot of them. We've kind of reinforced a few of them, but just as a quick snapshot summary at the end, what would you say?
Sure. For those MSPs listening, where do I start and how do I get the ball going? My first recommendation is have a body, have a person, give that person the time, empower them to do the work. I have this whole like speech around the people portion. I won't get into all of it, but it's basically making sure that you empower them, that you give them the time and the authority to do the work. Have the champion. That's the first nugget. The second nugget is start someplace, any place, whether it's an Excel or Abacus or Slate and Chalk. Like start someplace and start to define your business goals around risk and compliance, right? Is your risk and compliance program to make money, save money, or protect money, right? That's it. That's the only three things. That's all you can do. Make money, save money, or protect money, right? That's it. That's all this shit boils down to, reducing risk, protecting revenue. Define your business outcomes around that. Don't even look at a framework. Don't even look at a stack. Don't even look at a tool. Start with, why is it that I want to do this? Because when you can answer that for yourself, you can help your customer answer it for them and drive the rest of the conversation. Business outcomes. Have a person, define the why, and figure out the outcomes.
Perfect. That's great advice. Super. So what's the best way to reach you and your team to get started? If they do, maybe they got started and they think, you know what, I really could use this
Yeah,
tool. I could use.
Frank, before we dive into that a little bit, and I know we're wrapping up here, there's a bunch of questions I've been thinking about, for you as we come along here. Like, we talked about continuous monitoring. Maybe you could touch on that briefly around nodeware and the continuous vulnerability component.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, so Nodeware really is driven, looking at every device on within an enterprise, right? And whether it's on-prem, whether it's a remote worker that never comes into the office, and even your externals, right? The fact that literally hundreds of new CVEs or common vulnerability and exploited factors are published weekly, right? From Microsoft, from Cisco, from Adobe, from who knows who, right? ISVs around the world. How was that one?
Fortinet?
Oh, no, well, I didn't want to call out too many people. But there are vulnerabilities that are published, and if you're doing a once a week or even a once a month check, God forbid, against any of your devices, to one, know what you have on your network, right? You got to know what's there, because BYOD is still rampant, right? BYOD, somebody brings, I brought my printer in. It's open.
Bring your own device.
Bring your own, yeah.
I just have 4 phones.
Tim, you have the guest network for those other 3, right? But Nodeware is really focused on, again, identification, and then the continuous management to understand what risks are on there. And we've added, the EPSS and the KEV scores, right? The known exploited vulnerability as a key. When you come into the program, you see those, you better deal with those right now, right? Because those are fully known to be exploited in the wild. So we help you sort of identify those and provide the remediation, either through just suggestions and recipes, or through a patching tool that we have included in the program. So and it's very low cost, very straightforward. 10-15 minutes, you could roll it out to a customer and start seeing their data. So it's not a heavy lift. And again, we've got services that can help do that, or you guys get services as other people. We've got a partnership with Helped, which does
team over there. Good. I love Helped.
Yeah, no, they're doing great, and they know Nodeware well. You can hire them for 5 hours a week and just do the punch outs, right? Do the track down. So nice. love to talk a little bit more about that. Again, Raimondi at igius.com.
Hold on, wait, I missed that. Did you just say remediation as a service, partnering with Nodeware and Helped?
Yes, how about that?
Wow. So if I'm an MSP and I get my 10,000 trillion billion things that are found across all my stuff and I freak out,
God, I can't do anything. I'm paralyzed. No, you're not. You call us, we connect with Helped, and they will walk you through it.
Yes. Very interesting. Very interesting. Love that. Remediation as a service, RAM. RAS.
Ooh, RAS. Well, there are already some RAS, but we'll work on that one.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Frank.
So Tim, how do I find you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I know this has been sort of short and sweet, kind of hitting on some high level stuff. For those MSPs that are serious about building out a risk program, that actually have a human they want to be able to dedicate even just an hour or 2 a week, I'm not talking 40 hours a week here, right? You can reach out to us at Compliance Scorecard. We hold weekly live group demos. And Frank, just for your audience here, I will throw this out. Not next week because I'm at GTIA, but when I'm back and I'm doing these live demos every Tuesday, if you see me on a live demo and you can stump me, not because I'm an arrogant know-it-all, but because I want to learn and get stumped, right? It's how I learn. Teach me like, if you can stump me, and people have, I'll give you 50% off your first month. So plain and simple, go to compliancescorecard.com, click on the live demo link, and then we will chat with you some Tuesday during the live demo, where if you stump me, because I don't know it all and can probably be easily stumped, I'll give you half off your first month.
Perfect. Good. All right. Well, again, thank you, Tim. Thank you for all the attendees today. Appreciate it. We look forward to next month. We haven't quite finalized the topic yet, but we'll let you know. We look forward back to seeing you on Frankly Speaking. Have a great day,
Thanks,
great afternoon, great morning. Appreciate it.